My name is Martina Micheletti. I am the co-director of VaxHub Global, and I'm going to give this short introduction to the hub and the platform funding before I hand the call to colleagues who have led on this. Just a very quick housekeeping. So as you see probably on your screens, we record this event, not the Q&A session, but this initial presentation for future reference, and we will post it on our website. We ask everybody to keep the microphone muted during the call, and there is going to be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. You can use the raise hand button and unmute, or please use the chat for any information that you might want to ask. As the event is going to be recorded, we don't encourage you to share obviously confidential information, but we can very happy to have separate discussion if that is required. So in terms of what this presentation is going to include, I will give an introduction to the hubs for those that are new to the sort of what VaxHub is. And I'll also I have a couple of slides on how you can become a partner in VaxHub. And then I will hand over to colleagues to provide more details on the platform funding. And specifically, the call has 2 different themes, and they will be able to provide information on details, timelines, the eligibility, what we are really looking for to fund, and the application process as well. And then we'll end with some Q&A. So as an introduction to the hub, to the hubs, so there are really 2 hubs and 1 network. And the 2 hubs started at the same time in September 2023. The team is really, the hubs are led by UCL and myself at biochemical engineering, and 2 staff members who are co-directors at the University of Oxford. They're in different centers there. And we're not new to the hub. We have had a hub before 2023. And we then worked together to apply for refunding. So we were successful in the first call that you see in green, the Manufacturing Hub for a Sustainable Future call, with the hub, which is called VaxHub Sustainable, focusing on vaccines for pandemic preparedness. And I lead these with Professor James Sarah Gilbert from the Pandemic Sciences Center in Oxford. As we were working on the first call and still waiting to hear, there was a second call, which was specific to vaccine manufacturing, funded by the HSC, where the fund comes from the official development assistance. And so we applied for that call as well, and we were also successful. And in that case, vaccines are for low and middle income countries, and I lead that call with Dr. Catherine from the Clinical Biomanufacturing Facilities and the Jenner Institute in Oxford. In general, the 2 hubs have got a platform manufacturing approach that we work on novel technologies, and they have a similar work package structure with some differences and complementarities for the 2 hubs in improving. So research in improving and developing these technologies, research in development and manufacturing, so the sort of engineering part, as well as formulation and deliveries with novel materials as well. So the hub funds the core research with different senior researchers in different institutions, and I'll show you the team, the core team in a second, but also has built a network between the 2 hubs. At the moment, we have 20 companies that I think 26 have already joined, and then a few more are really at the stage of finalizing their membership. But if you're here and your company hasn't joined the hub yet, there is, we're still open to new members. And I'm talking about the members because obviously this is the sort of this is the condition in order to apply for our calls. The companies have achieved they've gone through the membership process and they are currently members. In terms of the companies, they are in the hub. They are SMEs, but we also have some larger companies, and we have higher education institutions, those that are in the core team, as well as others with very complementary expertise. And you can see an example of the sort of a different range of expertise provided by our network partners and the different countries represented as well. My last two slides are about the partners enrollment procedure. Obviously, they are relevant to those currently on the call, and if their company has not joined the hub yet. So what happens usually, they have a meeting usually with myself and our partners relations manager in terms of a little bit more detailed presentation from ourselves on the hub, but also presentation from the company to discuss really priorities and explore synergies. If there is a specific, a match and an interest in joining the network, then we move on to sharing our contracts, because there is a contract in order to participate to the hub, which basically in a way manages the confidentiality. For example, we organize annual meetings and different meetings with the sub teams where obviously our research is shared, and a financial schedule based on company size, type, etc. And this is is just initially shared for review if there is interest, and then we can proceed through some internal processes that we have, due diligence on the companies, and really the contracts, and is then at the end sent for signature. The process might take a few weeks. We are at UCL we're leading on this, and we have a higher education institutions with a very small contracts team that needs to basically prepare and manage the contracts for the whole institution. And so please, you need to bear with us. So the process might take a few weeks, but essentially in terms of the very first few steps that you can just, in terms of how we really start, as an email from one of the program managers through our VaxHub generic email with the contracts, the financial schedule for your review, and we request confirmation of a few details before then there is a signature required by a DocuSign. At this stage, I'd like to introduce the wider team on the hub, and then my colleagues who are going to lead on this call. So the VaxHub Global team specifically, as I said, the majority of the core funding goes through the two major institutions leading, UCL Oxford, but we have also other institutions who have researcher on site, and we all have really complementary expertise. So moving from, so we work and we have expertise. We might have expertise in a specific vaccine technology, which might have expertise in specific engineering tools, like, for example, microfluidics platforms. There is expertise in manufacturing and GMP support, or specific in microparticle encapsulation. From our partner, what we call within the call spokes, there are institutions that also have researchers on site. University of Leeds, Professor Nicola Stonehouse, for example, leading on the VLPs, particle the VLPs development. From the University of Cardiff, Sean and James is on this call on microneedle array patch development, and the London School for Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, Brendan works on and leads on the glycoconjugate technology and the cell engineering around that. So specifically for this call, it's a pleasure to introduce the team. So on the policy side, we have Anka, who's our policy advisor from the UCL STEEP, so the policy impact unit within her department, and Adam, so he's a senior vaccinologist at the Jenner Institute. And on the delivery, Professor James Birchall is leading as Professor of Pharmaceutical Sciences from Cardiff. They will take on this presentation, and then they will also lead on the Q&A, which will start probably at the end of this call, when the recording is also going to be stopped. So I'm going to lead to, I think, Anka for now.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Martina. Okay, so just to give a bit of an overview of some of the platform funding calls that we've already had, and some that are gonna, so you can place where this one is situated. So we've already had two calls, one for VaxHub Sustainable and one for VaxHub Global. This is our third overall call. So this will close on the 19th of December, with projects expected to run between April 2026 and March 2027. There'll be another VaxHub Global call later next year, which will be the last one for this hub. And then we have two other VaxHub Sustainable calls for funding in July 2027, and then the last one in early January 2028. So just to kind of give a bit of an overview, because this is a bit of a different platform funding call to the ones that we've run so far, which normally tend to support collaborations with industry partners in particular. So although this call sits under VaxHub Global, which is kind of Martina has already mentioned, it's very much focusing on, carrying out research for the benefit of low middle income countries. This call really is an opportunity for us to ensure that the research in the hub is also, beneficial to the wider UK ecosystem in terms of vaccine manufacturing and deployment. So we're kind of looking at applying some of those learnings and outcomes from the hub within a UK national context in relation to two key themes. So that's policy and vaccine delivery. And we'll come back a bit later at the end of the call to, or towards the end of the presentation, to give a bit more detail around the scope of each theme. But just to kind of give us a bit of an overview, for policy, we're looking at supporting projects that are focusing on, policy considerations or policy actions that would strengthen the UK vaccine development manufacturing ecosystem. And then for vaccine delivery, the theme that James is leading on, that will be looking at supporting projects around that address innovation or support innovation in vaccine delivery approaches. That could also, again, have a positive impact upon the UK wider deployment and immunization programs. Just a very brief overview of the submission process, and again, we can take some further questions, but so the deadline for the submissions is on the 19th of December. There's a series of documents they will need to submit, including an application form, and these are all available on our website. I think we can maybe even share the link in the chat, possibly, so in case people haven't already seen it. And there's also a downloadable copy of the call document, if that's easier. But again, if you require any of these documents in a different format, you can contact our team on vaxhub@ucl.ac.uk. And just a few kind of key details around the specifications around projects that we were expecting to fund through this call. So we think we'll be funding about up to 6 projects for a value between 30K and 70K. We expect the projects to run between 6 and 12 months. And in terms of costs that can be covered through the funding, it can include salaries for existing staff, travel, conference, consumables, and kind of other directly incurred costs. For researchers, they can only lead on 1 application per call, and then everything will be funding according to the full economic costing rules. We kind of generally expect to have up to 3 applicants that can receive funds under the call. But again, just consider the enhanced due diligence for organizations that receive over 30K. I think, again, the call details, they're on the website, which in the link that I think my colleague Joe has already shared. We've also circulated this by email. And include various newsletters. So some of you might have found it in found the call through the different channels. Okay, and then I think the last slide before I hand over to my colleague, Adam, we, just in terms of general eligibility criteria, all projects have to be led by VaxHub UK Higher Education Institution. So we have a list of those just for clarification in the next few slides. Any kind of overseas organizations that want to be co-applicants, they have to adhere to UKRI funding rules for international organizations. And we are very keen to kind of support, collaborative applications that wouldn't happen otherwise. Again, in terms of things that we'll fund, we'll talk in a bit more detail in a little while, and also in the Q&A, but we're looking at funding projects that align and contribute to the hub research theme, so global health, supporting manufacturing capacity, but focusing on the UK context. There's some flexibility in terms of costing, so I think funds can cover existing salaries for existing PDRAs, tech transfer projects, events, support towards upskilling. And then for the application and review process, so all applications are reviewed according to a number of criteria that includes novelty, quality, management, cost, and impact, and you'll see that all on the application form. We have multiple stage review process, so all the applications will be scored by a minimum of 2 independent reviewers who are anonymous, and then the final list, then the reviews are considered in a panel evaluation meeting, and after that, the final list of projects is ratified by our international advisory board. And then just lastly, we also have a sort of streamlined monitoring process. So all successful applicants will have to provide updates on progress, and also to comply with some reporting mid and end of the project. And I think we'd also expect successful applicants to engage with the VaxHub community and present updates about the project as that develops. Okay, so I think I will now pass on to my colleague Adam.
Great, thanks very much, Anka. So just in terms of the eligibility for this specific call, as mentioned, there's effectively a split into 2 streams or 2 different themes, one on policy and one on vaccine delivery. It's pretty similar between the 2, but there is one difference I'd like to emphasize. So similarities include that all projects, no matter which theme, must be led by a UK-based higher education academic partner of VaxHub. The big difference is while all, for both policy and vaccine delivery themes, VaxHub members are eligible to join an application as an applicant, just in the case of the policy theme, collaborators of VaxHub are also welcome to apply as part of a collaborative application. In this instance, what that means is individuals or organisations that are not formally VaxHub members, but if they were successful in receiving funding, they would, of course, have to sign up to a contract of T's and C's under the terms of VaxHub. The reason that applies in the policy space is because it's envisioned that there could be potential collaborators for applications out there from a range of primarily UK organisations who wouldn't necessarily be members of VaxHub, people who are working in the policy sphere and less in the research institution or industry spheres that are members of VaxHub. So yeah, one thing just to be conscious of. In the case of what are those higher education institutions, you've seen most of them on an earlier slide. Of course, UCL and Oxford, the co-leads of VaxHub, as well as the universities of Birmingham, Cardiff and Leeds, as well as the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So all of those are the higher education institutions that lead applications, although other institutions are in the process of signing up and joining VaxHub. Focusing in a little bit on the policy theme, I'll just emphasize once again something that Anka mentioned a couple of times, which is although this is under the VaxHub Global umbrella, it is a call that through the funding backing of the call means it does have to have UK impact and a UK focus. So it can't have a entirely LMIC focus. It has to have impact in the UK to be eligible. Here we've listed just a few topics that might fall under the policy theme. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There might be plenty of other good ideas out there that would certainly fit under the theme, but these are just some of the areas that occurred to the team that we might be looking to fund. So that's preparedness for future pandemics, things to accelerate development and commercialization of vaccine tech, sustainable vaccine manufacturing, and anything around regulatory affairs and regulatory issues such as accelerating pathways for novel research and getting things into the clinic. So because of the nature of the call in terms of what the judges are going to be looking for is a clear articulation of a few key points. So how the research benefits the UK, again, that thing Anka mentioned that I've mentioned again already. How does it help with either vaccine manufacturing or the broader deployment ecosystem for vaccines? What the actual impact of the funding is on the organisations and collaborators applying for the funding. What does it mean in the long term? What does it enable? And in terms of enabling the sort of information, learnings, pilot data, etc., that could come from the small bit of work funded through this call, where that might go in the future, what follow-up funding might be applied for, or what engagement for impact with stakeholders might take place if your application is funded. And I guess I will hand over to James now for a chat about the other theme under this call.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. So the vaccine delivery theme, similarly, obviously to what Adam's been saying, I mean, the slide looks very similar for starters. So we are entertaining applications that are focused on UK vaccine manufacturing and deployment. We've been very specific around that. But equally, the examples provided here are a distillation of the 7 research topics you'll see on the website, but these aren't exclusive. You might have your own ideas, as Adam says, that would be equally applicable within the scope, because it is quite a broad scope. So under the vaccine delivery theme, just to give you an idea of the sorts of things we might be looking to review during this process, approaches that improve or simplify the vaccine manufacturing and or deployment system. And these could include, for example, formulation delivery approaches that offer advantages with respect to manufacturing speed or capacity, or even sustainability and reduce carbon footprint. Under improved formulations and delivery methods that can enhance vaccine efficacy, coverage, and or stability, we could see proposals that look at dose-sparing approaches, single-dose approaches, multivalent approaches, and potential technologies that could improve vaccine stability, potentially thermostability. And the last distillation here, approaches that improve and promote trust in the immunization procedure for the vaccine administrator and or receiver. So this could be, for example, alternative administration routes or delivery methods that allow for self-administration or non-skilled administration, or improved delivery methods that will accelerate or simplify the administration process. So I hope that gives you some examples, but as we say, that it's a pretty broad topic theme, really. And the rest of the slide is a direct repeat of Adam's, so I don't think I need to go there. And I'll hand you back to move towards the Q&A.